And this is a particularly interesting topic as the rise of digital payments, is big on the agenda for development, and payments as a financial inclusion gateway is still a major topic. And so we have 4 great panelists today, and I'll just quickly introduce them, but they'll tell a little more about their background so you know who they are, and you can catch them after the session and talk more about what they're doing. Just first of all, my name is Thomas Abel. I'm the Chief of Digital Technology for Development at ADB, and I have a long background actually in the payments industry, and I'm very interested in this topic. So, and we'll go ahead. I'll just quickly say who our panelists are, and then I'll ask some questions for each of them, and then we'll open up to the audience to ask questions as well. So if you have questions, jot them down or remember them, and we'll be ready in a little bit. So first of all, we have Mr. Joseph Chan, Undersecretary of Financial Services in the Treasury of Hong Kong. Next to Joseph is Mr. Sam Ho. He's from the Korean Financial Telecom and Clearing Institute. We have Ms. Richa Pant, who's the Head of Corporate Social Responsibility, L&T Financial Services. And we have Ms. Tricia Weaver, Vice President of PaySys Global. And we have a good mix of people from government and private sector to talk about interoperable payments. And just as a kind of a starting point, the perspective on interoperability is especially interesting because you have, in some cases, like the M-Pesa system in Kenya, where you don't really need interoperability because you have one dominant payment network that pretty much everybody uses. So it is accepted so widely and used so heavily, so interoperability may not be so much of an issue, except maybe if that one provider gets too much market power and charges too much. And then on the other hand, you have API standards like UPI, PSD2 in Europe, and actually a new one in Korea that I just learned about, that creates a national standard for banks and finance providers to interoperate over an API, which actually may be the best way to solve this. So I think on these 2 dimensions we want to kind of cover. Is it something where you want to have few dominant players that have the scale and reach to reach the whole population and create financial inclusion, or do you want the government to mandate interoperable APIs so that the private sector can easily use these APIs in order to transact between different accounts? And we'll talk more about that with the panelists. And I'll go ahead and start by asking Mr. Chan a couple questions. First of all, since he's from the Financial Services and Treasury Department at Hong Kong, we wanted to ask him about the regulatory system. So the question is, what are the regulatory requirements to create an interoperable payment system that creates access for everyone? And who are the key stakeholders to create this ecosystem? And I'll let Joseph answer that and say a little more about what you're doing in Hong Kong.
Right, thank you. To begin with, in terms of doing this payment system, of course, one key goal is for financial inclusion. And on that, we want to ensure our general public and the SMEs have access to the basic banking and financial services to meet the needs of either their daily lives or their business operations. Maybe I should start with the regulatory regime we have in Hong Kong. Just to share, to begin with, when we talk about payment e-wallets, we have what we call the Store Value Facilities, SVFs, ordinance, which actually commenced its operation back in 2015. So the ordinance put in place a regulatory framework which enhanced the safety and soundness of the operation of these e-wallets, and thereby strengthening the public's confidence in using these products and services. Our regulator, which is the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, actually adopt a risk-based and also technology-neutral approach in supervising these SVF licensees. At the end of September this year, in Hong Kong, we actually have 18 SVF licensees. So at the moment, these licensees are still actively expanding the services customer reach. to different sectors, such as taxis, public transport, remittance, so on and so forth. We actually also started to see that they're doing cross-boundary business with mainland China and with other places as well. The other regulatory regime we have is the virtual banks. Only at the beginning of this year, we started to offer virtual bank licenses in Hong Kong. At the moment, we have granted 8 licenses. The objective of virtual banks are A, to facilitate fintech development, B, to offer better customer service like 24/7 personalized financial service for individuals, or we're talking about like microloans or financing for SMEs. And also number 3 is to promote in financial inclusion, particularly for these virtual banks. They are required to impose any minimum account balance requirement or any low balance fees on the customers. So in that aspect, that will definitely help financial inclusion. But at the same time, from our perspective, we need to balance between financial innovation and also risk management. So on the risk management side, actually these virtual banks are subject to essentially the same sets of supervisory requirements applicable to conventional banks, such as the capital requirements, as well as like other customer protection, technology risk, data privacy, so on and so forth. So these are the regulatory framework we have in Hong Kong. If I may continue about the ecosystem and the stakeholders per se, a few things worth mentioning. Apart from regulatory framework, we think it's also important to provide the right financial infrastructure. It was last year in Hong Kong when we launched what we call the Faster Payment System, FPS. It basically connects all banks and all e-wallets together as kind of an essential clearing mechanism, supporting live fund transfer between these banks and e-wallets on a 24/7 basis for individuals and companies. Basically, if you pick up a phone and input, let's say, your friend's mobile number or email address, it will show up which are the bank accounts or e-wallet accounts available to that individual. Then you can choose the specific one you want to make the fund transfer, and that can be done just immediately. So at the moment in Hong Kong, we have 23 banks and 11 store value facility operators who have signed up to this infrastructure. And altogether, in terms of individual, we have around 3.5 million registered proxies identifications. Considering Hong Kong, we only have around 7 million people, the penetration rate is extremely high. And from a government level, we want to keep promoting that. And that's why, as actually just started this month, the government also accept people using the system to pay tax, to pay water charges, rates, so on and so forth. The last bit I would like to mention is about how we bring all these stakeholders together. We talk about banks, we talk about the e-wallets, we talk about the government, and of course behind the scene, we also have the fintech companies who provide solutions and the IT technology to support these kind of products and services. In Hong Kong, we have a agent, a quasi-government entity called Cyberport, which is actually subvented by the government. But in terms of day-to-day operations, it's run independently. So what it does is now actually have a cluster of few hundred fintech startups there. Cyberport provides certain macro funding for the startups. It provides entrepreneurship support because a lot of these small fintech companies, they might have very great ideas in terms of products and services, but they might not know how to run a company, how to get their books audited, how to get the marketing plan executed. So we provide the supports. And also under Cyberport, there is over 1,000 institutional investors under its network, so that we do the deal matching to help different institutional investors to look into the fintech companies available. We also do deal matching in terms of finding customers for them. So if there are certain fintech companies looking for asset managers, looking for security houses, looking for banks, looking for payment companies, then we can do all these deal matchings. So I think it's very important not only the regulatory support, infrastructure, tax, talent, so on and so forth, but also these type of full-blown support agency on the ground to pull everybody together will also be a key. I know I kind of used up my time, so I'll stop here and I'll address more questions later. Thank you.
Thanks, Joseph. Yeah, it sounds like Hong Kong's a great place to start a fintech company and get involved with that. So let's move on to Sam O from the Korea Financial Telecommunications and Clearing Institute. I want to ask Sam, what are the challenges to create an interoperable payment system? And I know you have built some systems kind of similar to what Joseph mentioned in Hong Kong, but you're also helping some of the developing countries in the region to build their own systems. And so what can these developing countries do to create their own interoperable systems? I think you have some experience in that as well.
I like to focus on developing countries because there must be very diverse challenges depending on the situation in each country. So I'd like to focus on the developing countries cases because I have participated in a variety of projects for enhancement of payment market structure. And so from my experience, I'd like to share my opinion very honestly. So I think the most important and serious challenge is the government. As far as I know, one of the most important roles of government is providing infrastructures to their people. So likewise, government also has to provide infrastructures for financial market. So that is the reason why we call the payment system as FMI, Financial Market Infrastructure. According to the PFMI, Principles for Financial Market Infrastructure, released by BIS, Bank for International Settlement, there are 5 types FMIs, as you know. And the first FMI is the payment system. I think that the reason why they put the payment system in the first place, they think that the payment system is the most basic and essential financial market structure for financial inclusion. So I think the government has the responsibility to provide good financial market infrastructure to their people. But in many countries, especially in developing countries, they let the market do the job. They just leave everything to the market principle, to invisible hand of market. And we have seen a lot of cases of market failure. Right? So let me take South Korea as an example. Back in 1980s, when South Korea was still developing countries, South Korean government and governmental bodies like the central bank made a master plan for developing interoperable payment system, and they made a master plan, and they made a roadmap, and they made a legal background. In 1986, they established KFTC, my company. KFTC is not KFC, it's a totally different company. So KFTC is now making fried chicken. I like the fried chicken though. Anyway, KFTC has been building and operating and maintaining the whole national retail payment system in South Korea. It is an unusual case, especially in most advanced countries. When it comes to retail payment market, diverse private sector companies are doing the jobs, but in Korea, government made a kind of centralized system, and they pushed the commercial banks and financial institutions to participate in the system. And nowadays, a lot of countries, especially developing countries, benchmark in this case, I think that they think that this kind of centralized system is more efficient and effective because it's as I told you, payment system is kind of public market infrastructure. So let me share our news for launching open banking API system. Actually, last week we launched the new open banking platform system. It is allowing commercial banks, not only fintech companies, they participate in the platform and using the platform, and they can share the data, even the account of other banks. So on the first day, the August the 30th, the total amount of transaction was 6 million. From the second day, we are keeping the more than 2 million transactions. Among them, more than 5% are fund transfer transactions. So we think it's very, very successful. So the reason why it was possible is because we had interoperable backbone payment system in Korea operated by the one unit of organization, KFTC. So I think it can be a very good reference model for other developing countries. Anyway, I like to focus on the government role in this project. So in many cases, yeah, they are doing a really good job, but in other cases, they don't have a very good strategy or roadmap, or especially leadership or consistency. They are tended to influence too much by new technology kind of things. So even some countries, they don't have any interoperable payment system, but some of them say, oh, we need blockchain, we need new technology, or we need digital currency. Of course, we need blockchain and digital currency, but that is not everything. That is the very small part of the whole picture. So, I think the second challenge is the human resources. According to PFMI, again, a payment system is not just IT system composed of hardware and software. It is, according to PFMI, payment system is the total set are composed of diverse components like instrument and rules, procedures, and participants, and the payment system operators. So they need very various kind of capacity, but in many cases they don't have enough experience and know-how and knowledge. So they really need to develop the capacity of human resources. Okay, I think I spent too much time. So
No, that's good. And I would just add, thanks Sam, that you and the folks from Hong Kong are both interested and working with developing countries to share your own knowledge, because in many cases, the platforms that you've created are available and they work, and it's easy to, I'd say, cut and paste. I mean, people talk about Aadhaar in India, and then, it's a little more complicated because it's biometrics and everything. But these payment API systems are something that UPI, PSD2. These things can easily work in other countries, and you just have to figure out which standard you want and put it in and decide who's going to run it. And you guys have all that experience and are already helping other countries do this. And I don't see any reason why any government could do that. It doesn't really require massive public involvement, because once it's all the financial institutions that get access to that infrastructure and that standard, and then things pretty much work. I mean, it's not necessarily the only way to do it, but it's definitely happening today and available. And please reach out to them if you're interested, because I think it's a great perspective. So thanks, Sam, and then we'll move on to Ms. Richa Pant from L&T Financial Services. And I want to ask you, Richa, about what are the key challenges for serving low-income segments, especially, where the incomes and the access to finance, maybe the financial literacy is not there, and you have to basically serve people who maybe don't even have financial inclusion yet, access to the finance system. And then can you use mobile, like mobile ID instead of a bank account if the bank account is is too complicated for some users, where maybe the mobile is the first access to a digital service that they have, and can that be the kind of the root of a of access to a payment system?
Thank you, Thomas, and thank you, ADB, for inviting and sharing the grassroots experience. So I represent corporate social responsibility for L&T Financial Services. Just to share with you, we are a non-banking finance corporation based out of Mumbai, India. And as part of our retail rural business, we are into microfinance, tractor lending, two-wheeler, and we're also starting with personal loans and SME financing. Now, I'm sure all of you know about the demonetization that happened in India. It was a big news. So during that point of time, cash was a crunch. And as part of our organization's initiative, it was that time that the Digital Financial Literacy Program was something that we co-created with our implementing partners, which is non-profit organizations, and with our business team. The idea was to take the entire piece of financial literacy first, and then specific focus on digital modes of payment that the government of India has been driving to the grassroots areas, which is tier 3 towns and to the urban areas. Why I'm saying urban is because availability of the smartphones, and that's a challenge which I will share with you. So what we do is we identify rural women and we train her on digital financial literacy, develop a module which is specifically on digital modes of payment, provide her with a tablet, and then she teaches door to door. She goes and teaches this digital financial literacy to various households level. Right now we're running in about 5 states. We have about 650 such women, digital sakhis. They are called sakhis. In Hindi means a friend. We chose women as a change agent because we know that if women, if she gets educated, she will be able to educate all the community members, and she will ensure that the adoption will also happen, because she knows that what are the different kind of products, and the entire household will be utilizing towards the right channels. Till now we've reached to about 2 lakh Indian population, which is about 0.2 million through the Digital Sakhi program. The challenge is, one of the key things which has happened good for us is, so we call it JAM Trinity, which is Jan Dhan Yojana, which is the Prime Minister's Financial Inclusion Scheme. So each and every household has a bank account now. And then you have the digital identity, Aadhaar, which Thomas just spoke about. So every Indian has that. And then of course the smartphone penetration. Now because of this JAM Trinity, there's already an infrastructure which is built. And then you have these digital sakhis, the digital friends whom you have. They are ensuring that there's adoption happening at the household level. One of the key challenges which we felt was, and this is through this lady, when she decided to go door to door, she realized that, while we have the accounts in place, many of them were not being used. So you have about 95% people have bank accounts. But then how many of them are actually being used? So the role of her is to ensure that the bank accounts are being regularly used by using digital modes of payment. So one of the digital modes which has become very popular is the biometric device, because larger people are illiterate, so the Aadhaar identification works really well. It's called Aadhaar Enabled Payment System. So AEPS is one which is working really well. Mobile wallets have also worked very well because of the fact that they have cashback offer, and as you know, I'm sure in Philippines also, because if you have cashback offer, people really find it attractive. So that's really which has gone really well. And UPI has actually, it's a game changer, and maybe in future it might replace just wallets, because what is happening is it's real time, and through our program we're trying to promote as much as possible. We have fortunately, so it's real time, it's affordable right now, and further as it gets, the more scale it will get, it will further become affordable. And it's secure, so there's a VPA associated, which is so there's virtual payment address, which is like a token, so you don't have to give details of your bank account. So, but it's not easy to change the mindset. So with regards to UPI also, there has to be continuous effort. So what this lady does is, every time she goes to house, she has to reiterate this information. It's been 3 years that we've implemented this program. It's been running in 5 states. But mindsets do take time, and especially the elderly. We were hearing in another session, the elderly people, it takes time. So we've also decided to take up digital champions who are more savvy in the smartphone space, who know how to use Facebook and also they actually learn all these digital modes of payment faster, and they, along with the digital friends, they are trying to make as much as possible the adoption to happen. The other key challenge we have faced in the rural areas is while literacy is increasing and people are coming up to the digital sakhis to help us, to help them use the digital modes of payment, the merchants are still not using it as much as we would want. The Bharat QR is of course helping, so QR code is there which is helping. But again, the acceptance that it is secure, all digital modes of payment are secure, there is no safety issue, is something which merchants are not really accepting as of now. It will take more time, so there has to be literacy from a merchant's point of view also. So P2M is something which I see possibly another 2 years would increase with more of NPCI and more of digital financial literacy initiatives. I think that needs to increase a whole lot by a lot of other financial institutions, especially the tech piece. So these are two core challenges which I feel the merchant adoption and with the fact, so that's the core issue where it is still taking time. With regards to, again, like I said, bank, usage of the bank accounts, that's again something which through the program we're trying to promote as much as possible. And once the transactions happen, becomes active, and then, sitting at home, you don't have to go to bank or a formal financial institution to conduct transaction. See, there's also a challenge, with regards to formal financial institution, there's a challenge in terms of behavior of the staff of the bank to the rural population. So this Sakhi ensures that while you're sitting in household, you don't have to go to and face all those kind of stigma, whatever is associated. So that's something which is, which helps in this particular challenge. And the other piece which I mentioned was the smartphone. So smartphone, because we have to restrict ourselves to tier 3 or the rural population. If you really want to reach out to tribal or remote areas, you need solutions which are non-smartphone based also. USSD is there, but it has its own challenges with regards to security, as you know. There are encryption issues. So we are in talks with NPCI and certain startups now who can give a voice-based solution or an IVR-based solution. There are a few startups in India, there are a few in Africa working.